Oké, lift-off. Welkom allemaal op deze publieke ontmoeting met Masato Harada, regisseur van de film die we nog zo pas zagen. Geboren in 1949 is hij zijn carrière begonnen als filmcriticus, waarna hij begin als regisseur aan de slag gegaan is met films zoals Gunhead, daarna de heel bekende film Kamikaze Taxi, de welke hier te zien gekregen hebben enkele jaren geleden, en Yubaku Spellbound, de financiële thriller.
Bonsoir à tous et bienvenue à l'interview de Massato Harada. Alors, donc Massato Harada a réalisé plus de 12 films, parmi lesquels Bon Girls, Jokabu et naturellement Kamikaze Taxi en 95 qui était sorti au festival en 99 au Nova. Alors, surtout, donc, nous venons de voir Inugami, film qui a été sélectionné au festival de Berlin en 2001. Et que nous pouvons applaudir puisque nous venons de voir un film d'un nouveau grand maître du cinéma japonais. Voilà, je vous demande d'applaudir Massato Harada. Alors, Mr. Harada, I would like to know something about your script. What did you choose to adapt this novel?
I always liked Masako Bando's books, and I was interested in making a movie about Taboo Breaker. And in the book, she was described as such. And also, since I grew up in the old wood houses, like I used in these movies, I always wanted to make some kind of movie to be shot entirely in those Japanese-style wood houses or in a cedar forest, or maybe a story about craftsmanship. And so those elements in the book, like paper maker, taboo breaker, and that's the most attractive elements. One of the strong reasons I wanted to make this movie about.
The story also has strong references to the Oedipus myth. Is that something that you find in Japanese culture and Japanese myth, or did the author really base the book on the Oedipus myth?
Yes, the book had that Oedipus element, but in the end there was no confrontation between the father and the son. So I thought it should have ended in a way, sort of, big showdown between those two male characters. And so I added a little bit more. And in Japanese mythologies, we have something to that kind of effect. But when people see this kind of movie about the fall of one family because of an incestuous relationship, it's a taboo to discuss about this, but automatically Japanese would think about, oh, this is a movie about royal family in Japan. And so this is another taboo. And that's another reason for me to put an emphasis on this Oedipus element. And also, I wanted to make this film as truly sort of nationalistic film. The true Japanese film could be truly international film. At the same time, it happened back in the 50s. But today, you should have something extra to that. So in order to, I wanted to have this kind of, you look real Japanese film set in rural Japanese mountains, using all those national treasure kind of Japanese houses, and true, genuine Japanese characters with local dialect, and every actor spoke this dialect beautifully, and they even improvised those some of those lines in dialect, and that was never done in Japan. But still, I wanted to have some sort of images or music or the situation could be referred to foreign cultures, like Oedipus is one element, and music. I used Verdi's the Verdi's tune, but the arrangement is Japanese royal court music. And I also used some of the Baroque paintings, sort of stole the exact image, structure of some 10 Baroque paintings from Rembrandt to Cottin to Bruggen to Latour, and then sort of secretly inserted those into the picture. So this is a Japanese film, but then if you carefully analyze some of those elements, it's some kind of pieces you can put them together, or you can relate to. And I wanted this film to have that kind of international quality. And Oedipus was one of those elements.
And why it was so important for you to shoot the Cedars Woods forest, you know? Why it was so important for you to shoot all this?
Because in the old days, sort of metaphorically, Japanese movies were made of wood. And as long as we keep those beautiful cedar forests like the way it is, I think Japanese can live peacefully or happily. But unfortunately, we are losing all those beautiful forests. And in the movie, it looks like one cedar forest throughout the film. But actually, there's so much limitations. There's no big forest left in Japanese mainland anymore. So it's those cedar forests described as omine in the movie. Is the we had to go to 5, 6 different prefectures and put them together. And even the opening episode alone, when Seiji takes Akira to the paper mill, they actually walk through 5 different prefectures. And so we are losing all these great landscapes because some of those corrupt politicians, and that is not a strong message in the movie, but that's a sort of, behind the camera stuff here.
The movie is very beautifully shot, but one question I have is why did you shoot a ritual scene in black and white while the rest of the movie is in color?
I grew up with black and white movies, and in fact, I prefer to make all my movies in black and white. But unfortunately, producers, they don't allow me to do that. So in the future, yes, I make probably samurai period piece film in black and white. But in this one, I felt like when Akira came back to that Bonomiya family, and when he takes that blood, ritual blood, and sort of he was under the influence of Takanao, and I thought it was a perfect moment to see everything in a different way. And black and white was a natural choice. And besides, and then when Akira and Miki, they were liberated, then when they were free, every image comes back in color. And so I needed that kind of visual changes. But at the same time, when we shot all the ritual sequence in color, since this film, we had really limited budget. And then we didn't have enough time to worn out those costumes. It looked so shining new. And in color, it looks so phony. And so I had to lose color as well. And those are the 2 main reasons why I used the black and white there.
And also a little bit homage to Kurosawa movies, maybe?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. And all the great Kurosawa movies were shot in black and white. I'm going to say this because I said this to Mr. Kurosawa himself, but I don't like Kurosawa films in color, so.
And do you think that a movie is always a mix between myth and the reality? It's
sort of special for this film. I have that kind of personality because I call myself a sort of Shinto anarchist, and I believe in a certain Shinto shrine, and I'm coming from that particular part of section. It's in Nara, and so I worship in my own way. But like once a year, I worship this particular symbol. But I'm not so enthusiastic about this rituals. But still, I believe in some of those Shinto mythologies and things like that. And then when something bad happens, like 3 projects in a row cancelled, and then you don't have any job to do, and then I ask for the help, and then, oh my God, So I believe in this Shinto mythology in that way.
Maybe a question for your son, Eugene. You worked with your father on this movie, which has a theme of killing the father, and if he puts a lot of pressure on you during the movie, did you ever feel like, now I'm gonna kill him while making this movie?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Didn't you ever feel like killing your father in the movie because he maybe put pressure on you to give a better performance?
To be honest, yes, I did have a lot of feelings of that. But I basically enjoyed a lot because there were like a lot of talented actors and actresses. We were in somewhere of middle of nowhere and shooting. Yeah, he yells at me a lot, and I have a lot of emotions about it. But
You can be honest here, we won't tell anyone.
yeah. I was scared anyways. Yeah.
Misschien zijn er al vragen in het publiek.
Oui, des questions dans le public?
Le micro est
Une au
ici.
premier, là.
Mr. Harada, you were talking about Akira Kurosawa. I'd just like to know if an anecdote is true that you witnessed the shooting of Seven Samurai in Gotemba, your hometown, if I'm not mistaken. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I was 5 years old, and my mother was a big fan of Kimura Ko, who played the youngest samurai of Seven Samurai. So one day she took me to Gotemba area, but she's at that time she's 30 years old or so, so she couldn't say, I'm going to see the shooting of Seven Samurai and meeting this young actor I love. She couldn't say that, and so she said, okay, I'm going to take my son to piano lesson. And so we went to Gotemba for the purpose of me taking piano lessons. So and then after 1 hour or so, we started walking toward this local log house, and then I saw those bandits in costume, and that was the first terrifying experience of actual filmmaking. I was so scared. And then, of course, I didn't know it was Seven Samurai, but years later when I asked my mother what the film was about, and she said it was Seven Samurai. And so, in a way, I was lucky that my very first experience of actual filmmaking was Seven Samurai. I didn't see Mr. Kurosawa there on the spot, but I saw some of those extras. And yeah, I mentioned this to Mr. Kurosawa, and that's why we had a real good relationship.
Encore des
Nog vragen in
questions?
het publiek?
And what does represent Hitchcock for you?
Excuse me?
What does represent Hitchcock for you?
Oh, Hitchcock?
Yeah.
Techniques, film techniques, and cinematic dynamism and everything. You can learn a great deal from Hitchcock thrillers, all those techniques, and particularly his black and white area films, full of treasure of some techniques. And Kurosawa also, like Rashomon. You can still learn a great deal of cinematic techniques from that film.
You said this movie, you were interested in it because it was about a taboo breaker. a recurring theme in your movies, and I think especially now Kamikaze Taxi, is outsiders in society, the Japanese and their position in the war, and how people now are accepting that. Is that something that interests you, the outsider, the position of the outsider?
Yes, I'm still being treated as a kind of outsider in the Japanese film industry, sort of outside in, and also those inside out kind of movement. And then there is this, so even for my new film, The Choice of Hercules, it's a movie about this 10 days ordeal of police officers, and it looks like police action, but it's not. And it's actually the story, the struggle among the police officers. And then eventually this sort of one strong individual coming out as a leader, which normally never happens in Japanese corporation. But then this account of actual police officers' memoir of what actually happened in Asama Sanso in 1972, I found it was so fascinating because this police officer's struggles was like my struggle when I was making these movies. So that kind of, the approach. And whenever I make movies in Japan, ever since Kamikaze Taxi, sort of I'm getting used to do it in a combative type of filmmaking. That combative means don't get hard on the crew members, but you should be ready to fight against the money men, investors or producers. And so that's my basic attitude. And so that's how I was treated, and always sort of outsider in the film industry. And then probably even if I work in Hollywood, I do the same way. So somehow I managed to survive in Japanese film business, and probably The Choice of Hercules is going to be really big. But then Inugami was a sort of my that kind of approach from mine was. Of course, you have backlash. If you become too much of an opinionated or fighter or that kind of attitude, one mistake, you sort of get forgotten. And it happened in Inugami, but then, at the box office, it was a real failure and sort of ignored by every film reviewers. They didn't even write about the reviews. They just totally wrote nothing, talked nothing about Inugami. And even after recognition in the overseas, Inugami is a forgotten film in Japan for now. But then people started talking about The Choice of Hercules. So I feel a little bit strange about this. I mean, although The Choice of Hercules is going to be big, but then I still want to talk about Inugami with Japanese audience, but it just never happened. And I'm put in that kind of situation, and so I'm not answering your question right.
No, it's quite interesting. Zijn er nog vragen in het publiek?
Question? Have a question for your son and for you, maybe. Yeah. What kind of technique does he use to direct the actors?
Bicycle thief.
To me or?
Yeah, because I think you're an actor, so you can
Okay.
tell me.
Basically, he talks a lot to actors and actresses. Before, and even when they're shooting, he tries to develop more and more in a better way. Otherwise, he has this strict idea and always have this image all the time, a strong image. And He
You
does.
have to be closer to the image that he gave you.
Yes.
Really closer. Okay.
Sometimes I do not understand his image, but the most of the time, at that time we lived together, so we had a lot of talk. We talked about my role. I had a hard time doing my role because I was using this accent, special accent of Japanese, which I don't normally use. So I really had a hard time speaking the lines, doing the lines, but then somehow I just made it through, I guess, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in rehearsals. So I go through lots of those rehearsal sessions, and I care for casting every actor by myself, as long as they have a line. And even extras, I sort of audition them, whether the facial combination is right or not. So, and for big parts, I have these rehearsal sessions, and also during rehearsal sessions, I sort of look for these actors to find characters they become together, so that once filming starts, the every camera setup or every day, whenever I have a new image, I ask those actors to improvise a few lines, but those improvisation, after 3 weeks rehearsal session, after those actors becoming character, and those improvisation becomes sort of spontaneous, coming out not from the actor but from the character. And that way, ever since Kamikaze Taxi, I work with actors, and then I encourage actors to come up with their own words once they become those characters. And normally, I videotape all those rehearsal sessions, and then ask actors to watch those after each session, so that they can see what's wrong and what's good, and I point out. And even for the choice of Hercules, which have more than 100 speaking parts, I went through these kind of rehearsal sessions, and if they don't have lines, like those actors who played lower ranking police officers without lines, but I asked them to go through the training sessions so that they became those police officer characters. And I try to have fun with actors on the actual filmmaking, so try to communicate each other. And I encourage them to ask me lots of questions if they don't understand. And whatever they have questions, I try to explain everything. Just like this kind of interview session. Each question I try to answer sincerely and honestly. And if those questions coming out of my actors, yes, I answer this way. Yes.
Vragen in het publiek?
Question là-bas, je pense. Ouais.
I hope it's not too difficult a question. There are quite a few nightmarish scenes in this film, nightmares, dreams, ghostly scenes. Could you talk a little bit about the work you do on such scenes, drawing from a book to make it into your own visual style, and what you experience during the shooting and in the editing to make those nightmarish vision scenes in Inugami?
Normally, whenever I choose my DP, I work closely with those guys, what kind of visual images we go after. And Inugami was made right after I made Jibaku Spellbound. And in Jibaku Spellbound, I chose Caravaggio's painting as a sort of base of the entire visual image. And then I strictly limited myself to use only Caravaggio painting in Jibaku. But I was fascinated some other Baroque paintings. And that was something I wanted to use for this particular picture. But then all those masterpieces, paintings, just gives you that sort of lighting images. What kind of black quality and how darkness or depth of darkness you can go into. And my DP immediately understood that, but at the same time, I had to show him, like I said before, Soikuba, or other Mikhail Karatoza film, like The Crane is Flying, when those Tatiana Samoilova is escaping from, trying to commit suicide, and she runs alongside the railroad, and those montage is excellent. And this is a pacing, and this kind of emotional, camera movement we're going to use. And so that kind of combination, my DP understood. And then whenever I write screenplays, and if it deals with nightmarish images or those visual styles, I always try to write it down, see it fast, and then write it in the screenplay, and then talk to my DP and my production designer. So all those visual images, it's not coming straight on the spot. It's a sort of like a rehearsal session, going through all those different stages, and then whenever my DP or my production designer have their own opinions and coming up with a better idea, I can change it. So like acting sessions, I have sessions with these people, and that's how it was prepared. And when we decided to have those, the camera movement, sort of nightmarish movement of the camera, we picked up certain forests and we hired certain limberman, which tree is perfect for that kind of wire to be shot. And then we rehearsed a lot prior to the film. And it's a combination of those.
Nog iemand? Korte question?
Question
Then-
en public, no?
Then
And,
maybe a final question now.
And another final question after.
Well, the one before then. You are now working on post-production, I guess, of the Choice Berkeley's. Are there any projects lined up after that?
Yes and no. There's a lot of talks, but before the Choice of Hercules, there were 3 projects were lined up and all fell through. And so it might or might not happen. But after the Choice of Hercules, I'd like to do something like a ninja movie. And well, it's in a fantastic or fantasy category. Could be based upon Japanese anime. I can't name certain title here, but then there's certain Japanese novels dealt with those ninjas. But it's a sort of serious treatment of those ninja world, and it should be fun. And I always wanted to make samurai films, and so now is about time. And once the Choice of Hercules getting released, I think I'll become bankable again, so I can have my own pick.
And Inugami is your first fantasy film. And do you want to continue this kind of genre?
Oh yes, there are other horror, thriller stories I want to make, and then living in Japan itself is a horror story now, and so well, for example, in Inugami, that mass murder at the end of the film, that ritual, was actually the way how Japanese corrupt male leaders killed women and children at the end of World War II in Manchuria. In 1945, in several different Japanese colonies, something like that happened. So I want to make a movie about that. Then I might use sort of a little bit fantasy horror kind of treatment for that kind of subject. But it's not going to be a straightforward horror fantasy film, but combination of those, social comment and what went wrong with Japanese and things like that.
Okay.
Okay,
I think we can upload.
yes, I think we're gonna leave it here. We're gonna wish you a lot of luck with the
Yeah.
new movie, Choice of Hercules. I hope it'll be a big success.
And thank
it'll
you
be
again.
bankable again. So, big round of applause for Masado Harada.
Oh, sure, okay. Yeah, little what?
A little hello, to our host, the director.
Sort of, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I saw it like this,
Yeah.
because it was really in the first minutes,
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a hog, but yes, I prefer to have a hog like that. Yeah. So guiding into the magical world, and always how the hogs was my mentor. So instead, this film that didn't deal with any kind of hogs and themes, but at least I wanted to keep a hog that way.
Maybe you can sign my Kamikaze Taxi
Oh.
VCD. I'm looking for it on
yeah,
DVD,
from
but
Hong Kong.
I haven't found it yet with
Right.
subtitles, so that's a problem.
After the Choice of Hercules, this might come out.
That would be
Taxi
great.
from Coney
That
Canyon.
would be great. I really love that movie. I think it's really a great movie. Well, it should work.
I said, did it? Did it?
Video CD. Okay, thank you. There's some other people here over on there.
Oh yeah.
Catalogs, signed.
Here?
Yes, they. Then Freddie's gonna come live and the book of the festival.
Two S?
Oh, yeah, but
Oh really? Oh. I don't think so.
no.
Oh yeah. Here?
Maybe it's Dutch.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Hi. Sure. Hi. Oh. Okay. じゃあ日本語で書かないと。上手ですよ。
1 minute more. This is the guest book. The chronometer, the book of the dead. So it's a unique piece, you know. And then we ask a guest to put what's on your mind about the festival, the atmosphere, your feelings. A few words. You can write in Japanese, no problem. Okay. So please have 2 minutes. These are all guests last year and this year. People mix drawing, you know. People mix painting, every language. No, Oshimamoru is this one. And this was last year. This is Terry Gilliam. Last year, Terry Gilliam. This year, Mamoru. I don't know. What is Mamoru? Mamorushi. No? Mamorushi.
Oh, yes, yes.
So everybody, this one, Dario Argento. Ken Russell, and well, everybody writes.
Wow, who's this?
He's a comics writer. This Bernard Werber, the guy who made this French called Ants. Book writer Ants.
Ah, yeah.
The saga of the Ants. Book writer Ken. So here is you. Anything you like, on your mind.
You use it again.
And you too.
I'll
Yeah,
write
yeah.
in the very corner of, you know.
No, you have your page also, one page each.
Huh? 難しいね。
難しいよ。
親父達筆だっけ？あ、そう。母ちゃん達筆だっけ？あ、俺思いついた。
先やって。
はい。俺ここでいいの？俺すぐは3秒で終わるよ。でもこっち人書いてあるよ。
もっと書けよ、
そう。
お前。俺だけで小学生の書き。
3年2分とか
satisfied by the condition because this guy who made the posters died already. But it's an original, never published. Wow. Especially for the festival, the foundation gave us the present.
Thank you very much. I will, yeah. Thank you very much.
Arigato.
Thank you very much.
I have a
Yeah, I've seen this on the internet before I came, and I was really surprised of the design. Wow, this is great.
arigato gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much.
Finished. Good job. So you were ashamed of the other, but you make a artwork, huh?
I think that's a Inugami die.
Ah, yeah, that's it. Very nice. Very nice. I have also present for you, Mr. Harada. As I explained to you, to Regine, maybe you can tell me in Japanese. This is an original of the poster of the festival. And it's only 150 copies. And you got lucky number 99.
Oh, 99.
Lucky number. This is certified by the foundation of the guy who created this poster. Now he's dead, but this is an original. It's work never published. For the festival was. So it's a souvenir for you. If you want to bring to your office.
Yeah,
Think about us.
I need your signature somewhere.
No, you will spoil it. I'm glad that you've done for the. It's a pleasure for me to receive you.
Thank you very much.